Hey friends, I'm Jerry, and today we're going to dive into what really affects most freelancers, self-employed, and creative professionals. How your thoughts can either be your greatest asset or your biggest limitation. I'm going to share with you how I went from reactive panicking to strategic planning and strategy mode in my business, and how you can do the same and really save yourself the additional worry that you already have as a freelancer, someone who's self-employed, someone who's building a business. The things that make me spiral the most is when I found out a client or an agency has decided that they're no longer going to work with me. They're going to go with somebody else. This used to make me really question my worth, especially when you see somebody else doing something similar to what you're doing, but yet they've chosen to go with that other person instead. And the other situation is when the economy has taken a downturn, and yet again, you're hearing in the news, we're about to go into another recession. When I feel like I'm running behind and I have all these invisible fabricated deadlines that I've created myself to keep up with something called the algorithm, that is a new concept and not something that I have any control over. All these things just made me want to turn and run. Many times I'm like, that's it. I'm throwing in the towel and I am going to become employed. But now I know all that is panic mode setting in, and actually having things in place to help your mindset and your systems helps ease that internal chaos from what seems like external challenges. Jobs cancel and work does become slow as someone who is self-employed. Your business fluctuates, and it always will. And understanding that it does fluctuate is really key. But the issue that you can face is that actually when you're really busy and you're on a high, you don't have time to think about, nor do you want to acknowledge the times when the business is becoming a little bit slower and there aren't things in place to pick up for when that time happens. And that's probably the most difficult part. For example, when I was really busy with one client, I never had time to consider or think about any other clients because all my time was taken up with that one client, or I was exhausted by all the work that I was doing. But as soon as that client contract ends, you're in a vicious circle of trying to quickly find a new client or build a new relationship or figure out where the next paycheck is going to come from. You're in a vicious circle trying to find another client, which again takes time to see the impact of the work that you've put in. And this reactive thinking can really affect quite a lot of us. Without a strategy that works and keeps consistent client workflow, you're kind of like jumping from one crisis to the next, which is exhausting. I know. And when we are caught in this freelancing roller coaster, it's so hard to make practical, thought out, deep decisions about the reason behind why you're doing the thing that you're doing. You really just can't think clearly. And that's when I started to notice something really interesting about the way my mind was working. Think about it like having two different voices in your head. One is reactive, quick to panic, making decisions on immediate emotions. This voice says, I need to lower my rates. I need to do it for free. They don't want me. I'll never get another client again. That's it. My business is falling down. Everyone's moving forward except me. Do you know what I mean? And this voice feels necessary for survival, especially when bills come in. But then there's the other voice. This is what I like to call the CEO voice. It's calmer, it's a lot more strategic, it's practical, and it's looking at the bigger picture beyond the next client. But that needs space to breathe. This voice asks, what patterns am I seeing here? What's the strategy behind how I'm going to find clients consistently and easily? It's asking you, how can I diversify my income to reduce the pressure and stress of the fluctuating environment that I'm in? The issue that we have though is that reactive voice generally shouts louder, especially when we're in that emotional crisis mode because it's also heightening all your other senses. Yes, I've been there. These two approaches are constantly battling in my own head. And I guess it's which one are you going to take notice of more? But here's what I've come to understand after this internal tug of war. I've learned that in reality, both voices really do serve a purpose. The reactive voice keeps you alert to immediate threats, like a client cancelling, and the CEO voice recognizes the pattern and then helps you to start building something over time that's sustainable as long as you become aware of these situations. The trick isn't actually silencing the reactive voice because that's impossible. It's about learning when to listen to each voice. When I feel that panic rising after a client cancels or a contact moves on or an agency goes under, I use it as information, as data. I don't use it as instruction to then become reactive. It tells me something is happening. Yes, it's challenging, but it's not going to dictate how I respond. Understanding this mental dynamic is really eye-opening, but awareness alone isn't enough. You really need practical steps to help strengthen that CEO voice. So what's worked for me? First, I always take a step back and assess the worry. What needs my immediate action and why? What needs improving and what keeps reoccurring and why? And am I noticing the pattern? Am I doing anything about it? Or am I just sitting back hoping that the pattern doesn't happen again? For example, if it's a money situation, then I think to myself, what needs to change because I don't want the same pattern to happen again the following year. So do I need to save more? Do I need to spend less? Do I need to look at my business expenses? Where is my finances going and what kind of income and outcome do I want every year? And what I realized over the years is that I didn't want to rely on one source of income. I really wanted to diversify so that I didn't have to feel the pressure of things becoming slow. But I also realized that I needed to have a better structure in my business for my cash flow, which also helps ease any pressure for when times are slow, so that I enjoy the slow times. I don't panic in them. What I recognized was relying on one source alone created too much uncertainty. And I guess that kind of really came into play when it was COVID and there was nothing else coming in. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And even more so, depending on the area of business you're in. So for example, the area that I'm in, I am classed as a luxury item. So when the economy is doing well, I'm generally doing well. But if there's any kind of downturn, the luxury item is usually the first thing to go. So it's very economy orientated, which is completely out of my control. And another thing that I think really helped me with my mind and my thought processes was having external activities that don't just rely on my work. So studying, learning new skills, having hobbies like opening up my Soulful Path studio, which is all about wellness, mind, body and soul. This creates distance and space from the work. And it takes your mind off the things that are happening around you that might be out of control because you're using different thought processes. You're in a different space and zone. What I'm doing today will set me up in 3, 6, 12 months. But it's knowing that it's not going to be instant gratification. The impact comes in the future, not in the present. The real breakthrough comes when you implement specific practices to manage these thought processes. So here's what helps to break through the patterns. When things were slow, I recognize that as powerful time to go and seek alternative opportunities or develop what it is that I'm currently doing. I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a blessing to be able to have the time to achieve the things that I want to achieve. I'm reframing it that time is important and that I'm actually in control of that time. And then being able to use that time wisely to develop skills in business and in life really creates a balanced perspective, diffusing the narrow focused worry on the current situation. Also understanding that a lot of challenges you face, they will pass. So therefore I try to minimize the idea of catastrophizing the situation or reduce the idea of all or nothing thinking. Recognize there is a pattern that happens maybe yearly, monthly, with the situation that you're in, and being aware of that situation and then putting a system in place to protect you the next time it happens really helps ease and slow down your worry monster. I invite you to set aside a specific worry time, giving yourself 15 minutes where you deliberately focus on the concern and see it as a problem-solving exercise. So when worry pops up during the day, you then tell yourself, I'm not going to think about this right now. I'm going to work on this during worry time. This then contains the worry rather than letting it spread throughout your day and really alter your emotional state. And managing these patterns really gives you space for clearer thinking. What's one reactive thought that you're going to challenge this week? I'd love it if you'd share that in the comment. Thanks for watching.